Ready. All right, at this time, we'll call to order the City of Kenai Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for May 24th, 2023. Will you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item A2, roll call, please.
Chair Twait,
Here.
Vice Chair Halstead,
Here.
Commissioner Glendenning,
Here.
Commissioner Greenberg,
Here.
Commissioner Woodard,
Here.
Commissioner Costin is absent, and Commissioner Fikes. Here. You have a quorum?
All right, item A3, agenda approval. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Vice Chair Halstead.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
All right, is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Any objections? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Item A4, consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Vice Chair Halstead.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Second, all right. Are there any revisions to the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, would the clerk read the consent agenda into the record, please?
Thank you, Chair Twait. You have the approval of minutes, regular meeting of April 26, 2023, and that is your consent agenda.
All right. Are there any public comments or anyone on the any of the consent agenda items that would like to be discussed, read by the clerk? And nobody online? All right. Are there any objections to approving the consent agenda? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. Takes us to scheduled public comments. And we have one before us tonight, Dale Meck from the FEMA flood map updates. And I see we have, looks
Good
like we're ready to
evening.
go.
Yeah,
And
can you
if
hear
you
me?
can hear me, yep, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Excellent. Good evening, folks. I wish I could be there in person, but I appreciate the opportunity to be with you this evening. I will try to keep this to 10 minutes to respect the agenda, and then if there are questions, I'm happy to hang out and answer those as able. My name is Dale Meck. I'm a civil engineer with FEMA. My job is to oversee the process FEMA uses to update flood insurance rate maps. I'm joined this evening by Megan Main. Megan, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Megan Main. I'm a community and engagement specialist with the community engagement and risk communications contract. So we're contractors that help the region work with you all. Looking forward to meeting you in person in June.
Thank you, Megan. Megan is going to advance the slides, and if my audio or internet dies, she's gonna wing it for me. Next slide, Megan. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to try to keep this relatively quick. We are updating some of the flood maps on the Kenai Peninsula Borough, including several panels that affect the city of Kenai. Why do we make maps? It's because flooding is the most costly and deadly natural hazard in the U.S. And we have to update them periodically because flood risk changes over time. And we also have much better data now as far as the shape of the ground. And we also have much better technology. The hydraulic modeling tools that are available and the engineering analysis really lets us make much better maps that better reflect risk and are also much easier to use at the local level. Here I have a screenshot of an example flood map. This is down near Angler Drive, where I think it's the Beaver Creek runs into the Kenai River. And this is from 1981. That's the year I was born. So I would really like to get better data and more useful maps. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. Okay. So Kenai is a big place. As you know, we are only updating some of the flood insurance rate map panels for the borough. It's kind of that pink doodle there, the weird snake polygon. Those are the panels that are being updated. It is largely the Kenai River and the associated tributaries. The yellow star is kind of roughly where the city of Kenai is. Next slide. So now we've zoomed in, we're looking at just the scope of work for the current study. Because it's a big effort to update a map, we kind of use a couple different methods, and this relates to the kind of level of detail and engineering analysis that goes into the study. Detailed streams get more engineering analysis and more survey to inform that study, and then approximate streams is still an engineering product, but a lower level of effort, given the less detailed or the less population at risk, essentially. So here you can see the Kenai River is a detailed study with survey behind it, and then the green lines are several tributaries that were updated with this study as well. I've got a link there. The slides will be available, but that link at the bottom will take you to a website that we set up, and we maintain these for every project, so that community members can track kind of the project over time. So there's a lot more information available at that site. I'll highlight a couple more links later on that I think are going to be even more relevant, given kind of where we are in this project. Next page. Okay, so why do we make maps? These updated maps provide a variety of benefits. You know, the big one is understanding where risk exists on the landscape from floods. The maps also set flood insurance purchase requirements for federally backed mortgages. They provide information to support local land use and floodplain management decisions. They also give engineers and developers information that they can use to guide development in kind of a smart, long-term way, but also to design mitigation projects to actually reduce risk. And then they can also help inform emergency managers who are trying to react during a large event. Next slide. We make these maps within the context of the broader National Flood Insurance Program, which is a policy or a program established by Congress back in '68. And the goal was really to reduce the impact of flooding across the nation, both to reduce the cost and to reduce loss of life and property. And to do that by making a map, providing insurance, and then supporting community management of the floodplain. I will say that we generally recommend insurance for everybody. If it can rain, it can flood, and it doesn't take a lot of water in your house to cause a lot of damage. So it is kind of a federal minimum, but we recommend it for pretty much everybody. Next page. So here is a screenshot showing kind of what the current effective maps look like. On the left there, I've got that same 1981 picture there near Angler Drive. And on the right, I've got a screenshot of the new preliminary flood maps. You can see there's a lot more information available on those maps. And they've got an aerial below them. And so it's much easier to see where on the ground that hazard is being mapped. But it's also a digital product. And so, you know, GIS staff will have all of those layers available so they can put new information, other road layers, structure data into the map to really help make it a much more useful product. And you can see it on the map on the right, both the base flood elevations, the zones, and the regulatory floodways, all on one map. Current Kenai River maps. It's a two-map system, which is a nightmare for local floodplain managers to actually use. Next slide. So what we do then to help elected officials get a handle on the impact is we run what's called a structure assessment. And it's kind of an estimated look, but we take a national building footprint layer, right? And then we run some GIS analysis to try to figure out, okay, which structures appear to be moving from, you know, say out of the special flood hazard area to in, or vice versa. So within the city of Kenai, there's roughly 4 structures that we anticipate will be in the special flood hazard area, the newly mapped special flood hazard area, and 5 that would be removed. So, you know, on net, that's a change of 1. But we recognize that this can be a big impact, you know, for those residents. And so that's partly why we're here this evening is to help get the word out about resources that are available to help people understand what's changing, how it affects their land use decisions, and who to talk to get kind of more information. Next slide. So here's kind of a timeline. This shows kind of where we've been and where we're going between these maps, which are at prelim, and when they become effective. So we met about a year ago to talk through the engineering. We call that the flood risk review meeting. That's on the left. These preliminary maps came out in January, and we met with community staff in March to talk through what the outreach could look like and kind of this process in a bit more detail. And the key was to start planning a public open house. So that will be June 22nd. I'll talk a bit more in detail about that. After the open house, there's a regulatory period, 90 days. It's an appeal period because the maps are regulatory. We want to make sure that people have plenty of time to formally comment and appeal those. I'll talk more about that. Then there's a letter of final determination that happens. FEMA sends that letter to the community basically saying, hey, we've resolved the comments and appeals. These maps are ready to go final. There's now a 6-month period to adopt at the local level in a floodplain management ordinance. And that's a pretty important thing to start planning in that sometimes it can take some time to update the ordinance and do the formal adoption. And then when that happens, then the federal insurance rate maps, the flood insurance rate maps become effective. So there's kind of a approximate timeline. The open house is scheduled for June 22nd, but the rest of those dates are all kind of approximate. It depends on a couple of things, some of which are kind of outside of our control, but planning level. Next slide. Okay, so public open house. Megan's team has been hard at work helping get this planned. But the key is we want local residents to understand what's changing specific to their property and to get all the technical experts in the room to answer their questions. So there'll be FEMA staff will be there. We'll have contract support both on the engineering side and on the kind of communications and mapping side. State agencies will participate. And so we'll have, and of course, all the local folks, right? So we'll have the whole suite of people available at different tables to help folks who are interested in understanding what changed and how it affects them. They'll all be in the same room so we can answer those questions. We'll also have a flood insurance specialist on site. So June 22nd at the Gilman River Center in the afternoon, evening, I guess. Next slide. So after that public open house, we will do what's called a public comment period. It's a 90-day period. This gives people the ability to appeal the maps or to comment. And the difference there is essentially, an appeal is actual actionable technical information or data that FEMA can then use to review and analyze and make a change to the actual maps. Comments are kind of other information that doesn't really result in a major map change. We can talk through at the open house kind of how to make an appeal or how to make a comment in more detail so that they're actually helpful. We respond to all of them one way or another, but to help make them useful, we can kind of talk through that with people at a specific level. The procedure is preferably to have constituents actually submit those comments to the local community leaders to then forward those on to FEMA. That's so you're aware of kind of what comments are being submitted to the maps that the local community would use. People can also submit them directly, either to we have a regional service center set up and the email and contact information are there. They can also send them directly to me or to Matt, who's the STAR 2 consultant project manager. If I get a comment, I will send it to the community as well so that everybody's aware of kind of what information is being submitted. Next slide. So for folks who can't make it to the public open house or who would really just like to do their homework before the open house, we've set up a virtual resource, and it essentially has all of the information that somebody would be interested to know, from whether their property is at risk, whether their risk is changing, how to get more information about the engineering analysis, what sort of floodplain management means, and what some of those requirements are, and then a lot of resources about insurance. There's videos with subject matter experts talking about each individual topic. That is the link. That'll be up. It's up. It's live now, and it'll be up for a while. And the key really is we during COVID, we found that a lot of folks found this sort of virtual resource really helpful and really engaging. But a lot of folks also really like to sit down and talk to a real person. And so we've kind of started doing both. We put this virtual resource together and share that information out. And then we'll also have all the information available in person on June 22nd. This is some of the features that are on that site. So essentially people can go on, they can type in their address, they can get kind of a personalized view of their property. They can learn about the engineering analysis and insurance, floodplain management regulations, and then they can also figure out who they're going to need to talk to get those questions answered, say at the open house. So that's the real quick update. I'm not sure if I made 10 minutes, but I think it was close. And now I would love to just answer questions. Thank you guys for your time. Really appreciated the opportunity to just do a quick update here. Any questions for me or for Megan?
All right. I see Commissioner Glenn Denning has one.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Twait. Yeah, you had mentioned the concept of an appeal. What typically would someone appeal? Would it be availability of insurance, or does this program impact enjoyment and use of property, such as if they found a wetland on their property or something like that? What does this involve? Thank you.
So the appeal is if you've got, say you did a recent property survey and you have topography information, actual ground data from a surveyor that doesn't show up on the map, and you're looking at it and you're like, hold on, you're showing this area as wet, but it's way above that, and I have survey data to show that. You could appeal that area being in the special flood hazard area by providing that topographical survey data. So it's not about wetlands. We aren't identifying whether something is a wetland with the maps or not. We're just identifying whether there's a flood risk at that 100-year event level, essentially. Is that helpful?
Yeah, yes, it is. Well, thank you. So mainly this appeals process involves or goes to the enjoyment of insurance then, correct? And in other words, whether you get insurance or not, this is what an appeal would involve? Totally just insurance only? Just insurance only?
Sometimes you'll get an appeal because, sorry.
My question was just insurance only. That's how we agreed to this program some years ago, that it would afford insurance to the members of our community. But I'm hearing that there might be more involved in this process.
The reason a community member might submit an appeal is because they didn't need insurance prior, right? In the current effective maps, their property is outside of the special flood hazard area. If the new maps show that that property is within the special flood hazard area and they have a federally backed mortgage, they may find out that they do need to buy insurance, that they are required because of the lending to buy insurance. So participation in the National Flood Insurance Program makes that insurance available. Without participation in the National Flood Insurance Program, there isn't federally available insurance. So that is one reason why a community member may want to submit an appeal, because they might say, hey, I'm not in for whatever reason. And the key is to make it actionable. In order for the contractors to actually change the map, it needs to be data. It can't be, hey, I've lived here for 30 years and I've never seen it flood. We're mapping a very big event, but it's also not an event that you would expect to happen every year. This is they call it the 1% annual chance event. So it is a big event that people haven't necessarily seen in recent memory.
Dale, if I may add on to that, just in case you folks are getting these questions from your constituents, we do have a video specific to the comment and appeal portion of this part of the risk map process under the flood map study and engineering tab on that virtual resource that Dale shared just a little bit ago. So that might be a great place to point folks to get some more information.
Excuse me, just one more follow-up. So if you go through your mapping protocol and a certain property is eligible for the insurance program, they will be notified, right? It's not up to the individual homeowner to inquire if they are required to have insurance. They will be notified either by you or by their federal mortgage lender?
I believe it is by the lender, correct. It's technically not FEMA that requires it. It's a separate statute that it's required of the lenders, but it's all the same to the local folks. But yeah, they would be notified by their lender.
Good, thank you.
That's a big part of why we want to kind of get ahead of it, because we want to make sure that folks have advance notice of what's changing.
Commissioner Greenberg.
Did you collect new data for the elevation for this project, or did you use the locally available data?
So they did, and this project has been passed around a little bit. It started with the National Weather Service. The Army Corps did a lot of the work. The Star 2 contractors picked up that work and then leveraged it to kind of make the FEMA product. So it's a combination of high resolution terrestrial LiDAR and then bathymetric survey. So they took a boat out on the Kenai and got cross-section data as well.
Was it a new LiDAR that they collected, or was it the existing LiDAR?
I will have to get the exact date. I don't know the exact date, but it's newish, right? It's not something that you flew a year ago, but it's not 1981 data.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I have just one, well, it's maybe two. So just so I'm following this properly, so what is FEMA's position or policy, I guess, if a parcel is newly identified as in the flood plain, can they manually go in there with engineered fill, bring it up, take it out of that floodplain, or are we looking at natural occurrences to remove it?
So that's a great question, and that is going to be a question that the floodplain management folks are going to be better prepared to answer. If a parcel, if there's a building, right, and they would like to reduce the risk to that structure, there are ways to do it. It depends on the elevation needed, the best approach to do that. There's a variety of ways to mitigate a structure in place, and that really should be the goal, right? Is to reduce the risk to the structure. That it's not in nobody's happy when their property's wet. The process depends on where it is, if it's in the floodplain or the floodway, and they would basically work with the local community floodplain manager to get a permit, to talk through what their project's going to be, and to do the analysis to make that happen. So the maps are always changeable, right? Like a community can file a GLOMER or a letter of map amendment for a variety of reasons.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, I think we're good. Appreciate all the info.
Yeah, thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right, now we are at the unscheduled public comment. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak to any item not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we will move on. We have no items under E for consideration of plats, so item F1 is public hearings. F1 is Resolution PZ 2023-07, granting a conditional use permit to allow for a recreational vehicle, park expansion, event venue, and public market on properties located at approximately 810 Childs Avenue, parcel ID number 04901-401 and 04901-402, and 04901-403 in the heavy industrial zoning district. Staff report. Should I get a motion first? Can I get a motion first? Vice Chair Halsted.
I move we approve Resolution PZ 2023-07, granting a conditional use permit to allow for a recreational RV park.
Second.
All right, staff report.
Thank you, Chair Twait and commissioners and members of the public. As stated, this is a CUP, really a CUP amendment for an RV park expansion and proposed event venue as well as a public market. Current use is an RV park in the zone of a heavy industrial with the 3 combined parcels, as you see outlined in the vicinity map there, totals up to approximately 20 acres. The previous CUP that approved the RV park is under Resolution PZ 05-34. So this was a use that was approved back in 2005 by your commission. Surrounding uses to the north is currently vacant with a CUP anticipating a future restaurant and brewery that was approved last year. To the south, we have the city dock. To the west, we have the river. And to the east, we have an automotive repair transport. So just a little bit more background. The previous CUP allowed for 88 parking RV spaces, as well as boat storage area and office, store, shower, laundry facility, as well as subsequent CUPs that allowed for cabin rentals for housing personnel. And then just in the last P&Z Commission meeting, your commission approved a transfer of it to Riverfront Investments, LLC, and they are currently the applicant for this amendment. Just to kind of do some cleanup as well, so when the original CUP was approved in 2005, it was specifically for the larger parcel. With the additional uses, it would kind of overflow to these additional parcels to the west. So with this amendment, we are including the 2 parcels. I wanted to point out that the small parcel in the northwest corner is a city-owned property, and they have a current lease with the city. And then another cleanup to address is with the associated CUPs for the cabin rentals and boat storage. Those uses are no longer in operation, so those are considered ceased and terminated. And if those uses were to come back to your commission or added on, they would need a new CUP because that was a previous approved CUP. And the way CUPs work is once you kind of abandon a certain use, you lose it after a year. So I want to just point that out to you. With that being said, there are, let's see if this works. Even with a new,
Still not gonna work.
this is an $80 clicker and it still doesn't work. As you can see the layout, I should have zoomed in a little bit. I kind of put it a north arrow just to kind of orient yourself. This is now 112 RV spaces. This is a conceptual plan. Some things can change, mostly particularly if they come in with a building permit. A site plan and landscape is going to be required. And then The warehouse itself is potentially going to be an event venue, but like I said, this is conceptual. We're asking for the use up front now. If anything changes, additional users or changes of uses that would be subject to the CUP, it would come back to your commission. So there's a few RV parking increase, the removal of the boat storage, as well as the removal of the cabin rentals. For any CUP, can you switch the slide, please? 6 review criteria are required in order for your commission to approve a CUP. The first being consistent with the purpose and chapter of the zoning district. There's an existing RV park. It was determined back in 2005 that this was an appropriate use and consistent with the zoning, subject to a CUP approval. This is further just expanding it and further the event venue and public market. With the surrounding uses, staff doesn't see that this proposed uses would impact the neighboring and surrounding properties. So staff finds that criteria 1 is met. With criteria 2, staff doesn't find that it will significantly impair the proposal, but as noted by the applicant, it will clean up the property drastically with the removal of old equipment and trash. And when I posted the sign, I did go out there. A lot of work has been done. It's been cleared, and I am fairly impressed with what's going on out there. While the applicant is cleaning it up and proposing landscaping and beautification efforts, staff does find that there could be potential impact on the traffic, impacting the surrounding properties and noises to the RV occupants. So staff is adding some conditions outlined in the staff report as conditions 3 and 4, with a traffic mitigation plan will be implemented in coordination with applicable city departments when traffic circulation and flow becomes an issue with adjacent properties in neighborhood due to the uses on the premises. So that kind of captures, if it becomes a problem, this condition will capture and ensure that we work with the applicant and not have to come back to your commission to address nuisances or issues. I'm trying to mitigate at a staff level if I can. As well as another condition is providing a minimum 10-foot buffer strip from interior lot lines. Because right now, if you look at the site plan, as I said, this is conceptual. It is abutting straight to the property line, so I just want to make sure that we're requiring a buffer to adjacent property, as well as privacy and noise to the RV occupants. So with that said, staff finds criteria is met, or criteria 2 is met with the added conditions 3 and 4. Criteria 4 says proposed uses in harmony with the comprehensive plan. It's zone industrial with the land use designation in the comprehensive plan, and ultimately the standard is as long as you buffer between the uses, it meets the criteria. And as a condition described before, staff finds that that's adequate to provide a buffer between this proposed use and the adjacent automotive repair and the vacant lot to the north, future brewery and restaurant. So staff finds criteria 3 is met, and then criteria 4, public services and facilities are adequate to serve the proposed uses. This is met by adding condition number 5. 5 is, I can just go to my note here, that RV space, let me switch to 1, is adding a condition that they're going to work with the public works director to ensure that the on-site existing wastewater and sewer is adequate. If not, then they'll have to make sure it's sufficient. If it was on septic, it would be the same thing that we require DEC approval. Criteria 5, proposed use will not be harmful. Staff doesn't see that there be any harm to the public safety and health and welfare. And if it is with traffic, that's mitigated through the condition that was going to be added with condition 3. And then criteria 6 is kind of a catch-all. If staff finds anything that could be added, this would be the time. And staff is recommending adding a condition because of internal notes that I reviewed that there may have been some miscommunication with the previous ownership, and then people who are using the RV park, they were using city dock facilities even though they were an occupant of the RV park. And so my condition that I'm proposing is that RV space occupants or visitors of the RV park, event venue, or public market are prohibited from using the city dock bathrooms unless they are actively using the city dock. That's ensuring that these occupants are not using city resources just overflowing onto our use, because that means we are paying for those accommodations. So further on to elaborate on that conditions, it outlines it's the responsibility of the property owner or operator of the premise to ensure that all occupants and visitors are aware of this restriction. So those are the conditions that staff is adding on for the conditional use review criteria. And then there are specific review criteria when it comes to an RV park in a different section of code, 1420.25A. There are 3 conditions. Adequate utilities for projected or actual use shall be available. So these kind of mimic what are already in place under the CUP criteria. So staff finds it all meets it because it's already addressed under these criterias, and staff doesn't find that additional or specific conditions are required to be added on to meet these criteria that hasn't been discussed already. With that being said, staff is recommending that your commission adopt the resolution PZ 2023-07, approving this amendment to the CUP for the expansion of the RV park, as well as adding the uses of an event venue and public market on these 3 parcels, also known as 810 Childs Avenue, and that the amendment is subject to the original conditions of the CUP, as well as the conditions outlined in the resolution. So this concludes staff's presentation, and happy to answer any questions.
All right. We would let the applicant come forward and give any additional information if there's any to give. Good? Okay. And we may want you to come up and answer some questions still, maybe. But at this time, we will go ahead and open it up for public testimony. So anyone wishing to come forward and testify to PZ 2023-07. And seeing none, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Twait. I do want to put to the record that I received a call for public comment on this project from William Jagger, that he is in support of this. He does share some concerns with the improvement of Childs Avenue. When the CUP for the restaurant and brewery was approved, there was conditions in terms of improvement to Childs as needed, as determined by the Public Works Director. In this resolution, I have applied the same condition to ensure that all property owners abutting this or sharing this right away is going to be required to kind of support that as needed. So I did want to share that with your commission.
All right, and then just to make sure I'm tracking properly, Mr. Peterkin's on for the next one? Correct? All right, we'll let him sit there then. All right, so we got it before us for discussion. Any discussion or, okay, I didn't see anyone come up to do it, so I thought I was gonna close it. Yep, come on forward. State your name and if you're a resident of the city of Kenai, please.
Oh, sorry. One of our other concerns is the speed limit along bridge access. Coming from Kenai, going towards K Beach, it's 35 right when you turn onto bridge access. Turns to 45 right after AIH. And then also, we own 992 Bridge Access, which is the northern vacant lot next to this. It turns 55 right at our turn, right at our driveway. So if you add, you've got the City of Kenai dock turnout, you've got Carlisle, and you've got RV parks along that 55-mile-per-hour speed limit might be excessive for that area if we're adding that much use to that area. If you're coming from the K Beach side into Kenai, then you're going to have them going 55 miles an hour past all of these entry points for a left-hand turn with no left-hand turn lane. So that could also be an issue, turning left. So that was my main concern as well. And that's all I had.
Okay, yeah, and I know when we, first started looking at this waterfront redevelopment program, those kind of things were issues. Do we need a turning lane in there? Do we need to adjust the speed limits, things like that? So, I mean, I don't know that any of us thought it was going to come at us this quick, but it certainly is right in front of us, which is a good problem to have, but it still is going to be a problem perhaps. So, Commissioner Glendenning.
Yeah, yeah, just a question for staff maybe to follow up on. Is it within the power of the city of Kenai to establish the speed limit in that area? Is it it's within our city limits, or do we have, well, of course, we'll have to collaborate with the state, but who is the 51%er in this regard, regarding speed limits?
Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair Tway, and thank you, Commissioner Glendenning. That is a really good question, and because as a state right-of-way, DOT would be the one to work with on terms of the speed limit, and I agree with the public comment. I drove to put signs up there, and I was concerned that someone's going to rear-end me turning over there a couple times. It is scary. But yes, it would be something that the city would have to work with DOT to ensure that, hey, we're anticipating additional uses and traffic pulling in, and that would be a collaboration effort.
Chair, can I say something as the public?
Follow up, please.
Let's let Mr. Glendenning follow up first. Go ahead.
So then, from your comments, you're taking that as an action item then to run that to ground to mitigate or modulate the speed limit. Just as a point of interest, where the AIH hardware store is, it used to be 55 miles an hour right up to that point. So we have throttled back a little bit, and I'm sure we can improve our situation. Thank you.
Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair Tway. Thank you, Commissioner Glendenning. Yes, with my efforts of hopefully in the near future here to bring the waterfront rezone or plan, the staff will be looking at all aspects to ensure we're anticipating some uses and changes down there. And traffic is a big issue, so it is on my radar.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Peterkin.
Yeah, thank you. So that lady brought up some great points. I've been spending a lot of time down there the last couple of years, and I don't know how the city would fit into this, but a light at Beaver Loop, it takes a long time to get on the road from Childs Avenue or any of those streets down there. And a traffic light at Beaver Loop would really help. And that may be a state issue, I don't know. But if we could just maybe mention it in the plan or something. And then I had one more issue.
You want to address that now or
Okay.
wait?
Are you asking me?
I am.
Okay, sorry. Well, I'll go on to the next issue. The other issue was in this previous resolution that we're talking about here was, the guests utilizing the bathrooms at the city. And I was down there the last couple DipNet seasons at the city dock quite a bit, and also at the property we're talking about. And I know the previous owner had their own porta potties, and campers have their bathrooms in them. And I can tell you that standing there with the owners and trying to explain to people not to use the city bathroom was a little bit embarrassing for me, especially when I was on council. I know some of the city workers were upset that the camper people were coming over and using it, but I was like, well, they're public bathrooms, and it all kind of eventually goes in the same place. But I don't know. I don't think we should take such a hard line on that. I think the RV park should, provide some facilities as well. And most of the campers are equipped with bathrooms. But to tell our guests, or maybe not mine specifically, but the guests that, hey, don't use the public bathroom over there because you haven't paid to launch your boat or whatever. I just never thought that was a really good idea.
All right.
So as the public, I guess that's my concern, yeah.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Glendenning.
Thank you, Chairman Twait. Thank you for your point, Mr. Peterkin. The question is the bathroom that's by the boat launch to the public perception, how that's a distinction without a difference. We have bathrooms of the same design, the same capacity at North Beach, South Beach, baseball fields, and our parks. So why is this excluded from use? That's the question he's raising. I don't see any really inconvenience to the city to allow people to poop when they have to. I think it's important that we provide equal facilities for all. Granted, people are paying to use the dock, but they're not necessarily thinking that they're going to pay to use the bathroom. It's just there as a convenience. Boat people just probably go over the side once they cleared the sandbar. So just an observation that I think we're being a little strict with our bathrooms on public ground. Thank you.
I think thank you. Well, so I had jotted down a note. I was curious regarding condition 6. What does it? Are we specifically saying that either there's going to be signage about that, not using the city's facilities? Is it going to be in the contract with to use the RV park? Is it going to be a verbal thing? I was curious about that, and I don't know if either Mr. Moffis or Ms. Mitchell might have an answer to that. I was just curious how we're going to police that and what the policy would be to get that message out.
Thank you, Chair Twait, for that question. I haven't really discussed this condition with Mr. Moffis. When I issue the staff report, I just ask that the applicant review everything, and that if they disagree with any conditions, that they can bring before your commission and address why it's not a good condition or that they don't agree to it. In terms of how to enforce that, it's more of a mechanism if it becomes an issue, because one of the issues that I struggle with code enforcement is if it's not clear in the code and I can't reference it, then I can't address it. And my job as the administration is to do a thorough history, and I saw that this was an issue a couple of years ago, and I added it as a condition or provision. If your commission find that it's not appropriate, I'm happy to remove it. But it could be a collaboration between my staff and administration with the applicant of signage or in a lease agreement of some sort. I didn't want to limit to anything. I don't want to say, let's put a sign, because I'm trying to work on the aesthetics of things, because I don't believe in saying, hey, let's put a sign and that's going to address it. I want to work on something that actually is going to ensure that this condition is going to be met.
So like parking spaces for uses and stuff like that, we don't have a number of portable facilities or anything like that that are tied to it. I don't know if your plans are to bring 10 of them in for the season or what. Is there anything that we have that, I guess that's a condition we could add to that probably, huh? I'm kind of just trying to get my head wrapped around it.
Thank you, Chair Twait. So when it comes to that, usually during the site plan and landscape, that's when staff will really do an in-depth review of realistically, because it could be in this first year, are we going to see 112? I don't want to say, hey, throw out 8 dumpsters when at the end you only need 3. So staff's going to work with the applicant to see realistically how many spaces we're going to utilize, and if it increases to full capacity, we're going to make the appropriate requirements to ensure that trash and debris are going to be addressed. So as I noted, this is a conceptual plan. They're asking for a certain amount of spaces, and during the site plan and landscape review, staff will determine what is an appropriate number to address those things.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Commissioner Greenberg.
Yeah, I just had a question. There was a note about boat storage. Is there going to be, it looks like is there a launch on that property, and is there going to be boats launching?
There is a launch, but actually, what about the?
Make sure.
Yeah, historically there has been a launch, but it is not usable right now. It would require permitting and stuff like that to dredge it and address that. But that is not on our radar right now. And we're basically going to block that off so that nobody can even try to use it.
Okay, thank you.
I might keep you up
Okay,
here, just
hang on.
somebody else might have another question for you.
Is
Once
this
you're up
gonna-
here, the
Is
floodgates
this
are
going to
open.
be a year-round RV park, or is it seasonal?
This will be seasonal.
And if I could just, I think we all know who you are, but just state your name for the record too, just so that it is recorded that way.
Yeah, so my name is Matthew Moffis. I'm one of the partners in Riverfront Investments.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Halstead.
Yeah, I just had a condition or a question, but I think it just got answered. If that warehouse space, you had it listed as a possible venue for events, weddings, whatnot, but if you were, I don't know, I would encourage you to have that open year-round just because we have a severe lacking of that type of environment. And then my other, well, I guess you can answer that one.
Yeah, so the RV park would be seasonal, but anything we have planned for the buildings and the dock and all that kind of stuff will all be year-round.
Excellent. And then, yeah, my other concern would just be if we did change that speed limit on that road, I would be getting a tremendous amount of speeding tickets. So if we can make some sort of exemption for me, I'd appreciate that as well.
City needs revenue, so that's okay. All right, anything else for Mr. Moffis while we got him up here? All right, thank you. I have a question for staff, I guess. Do we have any zone? I don't want to start spot zoning things, but instead of having to go through the conditional use process, I mean, would there be a potential of rezoning some of that would eliminate having to go through a conditional use process on this parcel?
Thank you, Chair Toy, for that question. Yes, with the waterfront revamp or rezone, I haven't decided what's the best process yet. It would be to ensure that these type of uses that are compatible and consistent with the waterfront study, that they wouldn't have to go through this condition. It's my goal is to write good objectives so that staff can do things at a staff level, at administration approval, rather than taking these things that we want to see in our city and going through this process. But I will say that I am making it a priority when I'm reviewing projects within this waterfront study or surrounding areas to ensure that at the end of the day, even if they go through this process, the time frame is not any longer than if they would gone through a building permit. So the amount of time is not going to be prolonged in any manner.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Any other discussion? All right, I think we're ready for the roll, please.
Vice Chair Halstead,
Yes.
Commissioner Glendenning,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard,
Yes.
Commissioner Fikes,
Yes.
Chair Twait,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, and a 15-day appeal period would apply to this, so if after 15 days, no one has, that is an affected party has filed an appeal, that permit will be granted. We will move on to item F2, Resolution PZ 2023-08, granting a conditional use permit to allow for a recreational vehicle park on properties located at 1088 and 1120 Bridge Access Road, parcel IDs 0491312 and 0491313 in the Heavy Industrial Zoning District. Can I get a motion, please? Vice Chair Halstead.
I move we approve Resolution PZ 2023-08, granting conditional use permit, and clarification on that second parcel was 04901313.
I knew it. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, staff report.
Thank you, Chair Toy and Commissioners and members of the public. So this is another CUP, but this is for a new RV park on those properties located at 10088 and 1120 Bridge Access Road. As you can see here, outlined in red are the two parcels. Current use is vacant. Zoning is heavy industrial, as well as the land use designation in the comprehensive plan is industrial, with the combined lot area of approximately 2 acres. Surrounding uses to the north, I mean, if you're looking at this map, is Bridge Access Road, as well as to the east, Bridge Access Road. To the west is really the vacant future restaurant brewery, as well as the RV park that we just discussed. And to the south, we have the automotive repair transport. So this CUP for an RV park is asking for a maximum capacity of 50 RV spaces. I do want to point out that this will also be subject to a landscape site plan review, and if it's determined that based on the dimensions of the RV parking spaces and access ways, it may not be 50 RV spaces. So it could be reduced through the site plan landscape. We're just asking for up to 50, and it more than likely could be reduced with a coffee shop being proposed to really the east side of this property. The coffee shop itself is not included in the CUP because it is an allowed use in the zone. So I didn't want to pull this into the CUP, and if they continue it, we have to amend it. So it's a better practice this way. With that being said, CUPs require 6 criteria in order to approve the CUP. First criteria is that it's consistent with the chapter in the zoning of the heavy industrial. The land use table allows this use to be approved subject to a CUP approval. Knowing that there's an existing RV to the west, staff finds that this is consistent. It's not going to be more of an impact than what's already around based on the surrounding uses. Staff does find that criteria 2 is also met as well, that the neighborhood would not be significantly impaired or adjoining properties. Conditions 4 and 5 are similar to the previous CUP, stating that traffic mitigation plan will be implemented as needed if traffic becomes an issue, as well as providing a minimum 10-foot buffer strip from the interior lot lines to ensure the RV space occupants are protected from noise and privacy from the surrounding commercial industrial use. Criteria 3 is also, staff find is met, that it's in harmony with the comprehensive plan with an industrial use. The focus there is that we provide the buffers as needed. And criteria 4, staff find that it's also met as well. Public service and facilities are adequate. And condition 6 is being added to ensure that they work with the public works director for their on-site wastewater and their sewer system requirements. In criteria 5, proposed use will not be harmful to the public safety, health, and welfare. Staff finds that this condition is met. Staff doesn't, with the buffer that's being required and the requirements of wastewater and sewer, that these things are met. And obviously, when it comes to the traffic off bridge access, that will be addressed in a different manner. And then criteria 6 is a catch-all, that if there aren't conditions that haven't been described or required, that this would be an opportunity for your commission to add as well, and staff doesn't find that we need to add any additional specific conditions not already mentioned. And then for the specific conditional use review criteria, when it comes to an RV park, adequate utilities are met or provided and shall be available. It will be available. The applicant is working with Public Works Department to obtain those. And then the projected condition number 2, projected and actual use shall not be threatened by health and safety welfare. This is similar to criteria 5, so staff finds that it's met. Condition 3 is a catch-all again, and staff doesn't find that there's additional conditions that needs to be added. Therefore, staff finds that is recommending that your commission adopt this resolution PZ 2023-08, approving a conditional use for this new RV park on the properties known as 1088 and 1120 Bridge Access Road, subject to the listed conditions in the resolutions. This concludes staff's presentation. Happy to answer any question.
All right, again, I would offer an invitation if the applicant has anything to add, but different applicant, never mind. Let's let this guy talk then. Mr. Peterkin, go ahead.
Hi, guys. Thanks for considering this. I don't really have a lot to say. I believe Elizabeth is there. She's the owner of 1882 Brew, the coffee shop, and I'm representing Duke, who owns the property. He owns Duke Automotive next door, and we're glad to be doing this. We are planning on providing a a dump station for RVs there as well, utilizing the city water and sewer. So excited about the project.
All right, thank you. And now we'll open it up to the public. Anyone else wishing to come forward and speak to PZ 2023-08? Go ahead. Come on up. State your name, and if you're a resident of Kenai for the record, please.
Do I have to keep holding it to talk?
Nope, I think you just push it down. It should stay there.
I'm Elizabeth Peterkin. I'm Robert Peterkin's daughter, and I'm a resident of Kenai. I own 1882 Brew. I started out in Kasilof on our dock out there, so we also have an RV park out in Kasilof, down Kasilof Beach Road, which is also seasonal, which I'll be picking up and moving that onto the 1120 Bridge Access Road, which I'm excited to do if that is allowed through you all. Anyways, I'm very excited for this RV park if it does get allowed, and we're really just looking to have a space for people to go and park their RV park and have a secure location so their RVs do not get budged into by other people, that is a concern in other areas, but has yet to happen, but I'm very stoked.
All right, we'll see if anyone has any questions. Oh, you're going to get it off easy, it looks like. All right, thank you. Oh, hang on, we're going to put you back up here.
Just a real quick question. Are we planning on a year-round coffee?
Yes.
Okay.
As of right now, yes.
Okay. Well, that was what I was hoping for, so thanks.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Someone's got a caffeine problem, it looks like.
There's no coffee on that side of town.
All right, anyone else wishing to testify to PZ 2023-08? See a beaming dad on the screen there. He's so proud. All right, we will go ahead and close the public hearing then, bring it back to the commission. Any discussion? Vice Chair Halstead.
Yeah, I think that just more brings up the road concerns. Is this something that and actually I'm in favor of it. I think it's a great idea. It's exactly what we're wanting to do, is bring life into that area, and that's definitely going to do that. I think it's perfect for our environment and what we're trying to do, and especially adding small businesses there, such as a coffee place. But that's great. Again, my concern is just, and I think it's already been voiced, is does the road system or the Department of Transportation have anything to do with that, or are they aware that this is on the horizon? I mean, yeah, it's been talked about, but I don't think we all plan on this happening as fast as it is. And I probably, under that same respect, would it be prudent to factor in a bike path or a walking path that goes through all of these areas that we're going to make accessible to people in an RV park, where they would be walking from one location to another location, or to Casix or anything like that. A walking path is going to limit or mitigate some of the traffic concerns with pedestrians on the road.
Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair Tway, and thank you, Vice Chair Halstead, for your question. For myself speaking specifically, I have not reached out to DOT in terms of the impact. I would have hoped that during the waterfront study that we had some conversation of what requirements or what that would look like. It's a very comprehensive approach to anticipate the waterfront, so I don't want to switch gears, but just to briefly address that a trail is a great idea. We had a trails plan drafted, but we never adopted it. It's a little bit outdated. So with this waterfront, part of the delay is it requires a lot of review, the trails, the connections, the connectivity, the traffic flow, and then anticipating the appropriate uses and coming up with, it is a lot of work for administration, but those are all things I am considering. But that's a lot of moving pieces. I agree with you, a trail walking through, because I believe in walkability from an administration of planning and zoning. The quick answer to answer your concerns of traffic, I did talk to the Public Works Director when it comes to Childs Avenue. It is not a city-maintained road. The only way we're going to maintain it if it's an engineer road. So that would require funding from the adjoining properties and maybe a partnership with the city, but that's a conversation to be had. So all I will say that I will be talking to DOT because yes, this is a lot of uses coming off of this street and in this corridor. And the last thing I want to see is traffic and safety issues. And I want to ensure that we're protecting our residents and people who visit Kenai.
Anyone else? Robert, you have something to add?
Yeah, again, I throw my pitch for the stoplight at Beaver Loop. I mean, I've literally been in and out of that property for the last 2 years, sitting on the side of the road thinking what would make it easier to get on the road. And you can tell right when the last light in Kenai lets out because you get a whole surge of traffic come down, and then you get a little break when the red light in Kenai's on. But boy, if we had one at Beaver Loop, it would be really good. The other thing is, I do believe that with both of these parks, it's going to slow down a little bit of the DipNet traffic because we're hoping to capture a lot of the DipNetters in our parks, and it'll be a little bit less congestion at the Kenai dock, is my hope. I really like if somehow something could be worked out with the city and the other property owners, because you could access the dip netting area through the child's property. Now that's a whole nother can of worms, but if we're talking about alleviating traffic on the highway, that's another way to commute through these properties for sure. There's also going to be future expansion behind Carlisle and Duke's. I've been talking with Duke a lot, and there'll eventually be a street behind there proposed. So there's lots of things for you guys to be looking at. I do think it's good to talk to the DOT, whether I hope it's not the speed limit, but something more like a light or maybe 4 lanes or something, but just appreciate the effort.
All right. Yeah, I would agree. I think, in order of ease and cost, and as quickly as you could implement them, a speed limit and then a traffic light would be the two easy ones. Widening that road and getting a turning lane or something would obviously take a little bit of time, but I agree that a traffic light, as much as I would hate to have to sit at another traffic light going across there, but I guess it would be okay. It would certainly help the problem, because like you said, it's an ebb and flow. When that light turns green and red, you can see the effect of it. So might be time for at least something to, and I think that traffic feasibility study will certainly bring to light what people smarter than us know the best way to do it. So any other discussion? All right, I think we're ready to call the roll.
Commissioner Woodard?
Yes.
Commissioner Fikes?
Yes.
Chair Twait?
Yes.
Vice Chair Halstead?
Yes.
Commissioner Glendenning?
Yes.
Commissioner Greenberg?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, and again, 15-day appeal period will come and maybe go, but if someone files an appeal during that time, we'll address that. If not, after the 15 days, your conditional use permit will be granted. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, now it is time to fly. G, unfinished business, none. H, new business, none. I, pending items, none. Takes us to J, reports. J1 is City Council. Councilman Dothett.
Yes, we're just wrapping up some budget. Hopefully by the end of this month, we should have it all wrapped up. I think it goes before final approval by the end of next month. One of the things that's coming up is for reconsideration, our next meeting is the advertising contract with iHeart Kenai and the firm out of Texas. There are some talks of possible renegotiation and some changes happening on that front. Should come forth on this next meeting. Sounds like there's a lot of push to hopefully try to steer that back towards a local company or possibly the chamber looking at bidding into that. So those are kind of the big things on the forefront, but it sounds like we got a good budget worked out this year. And we're working on trying to, a couple other things is employees retention. Been working a lot with that, with employee retention, but there's some good ideas out there that the staff has put together for incentivizing that and just trying to fix a few little things here and there to try to maintain the employees that we have. Hopefully, if it hasn't already been announced, I haven't heard, or it will be soon, we'll get the new parks director. Have that been announced officially yet? Okay. It's Tyler? Okay. I hadn't heard yet, but Tyler will be the new parks director. So he was assistant, moving on up. I think that's a great move. But that's the gist of it so far. Nothing too huge and major going on right this second.
All right. Commissioner Glendenning.
Yeah, just a follow-up question on the budget. Do planning and zoning commissioners get a raise this year, or are we still going to be at the poverty level?
Something that I've been heard on many times when I had a job, just be glad you got a job.
I think it's good that we just get overtime.
So I will just say that me and a few guys from my crew started working on the dog park pavilion this morning. And I had Tyler, I needed a couple of things from him, and he was like that, super quick. So I told him, I said, you're on your way to being city manager already, probably. You're moving up so fast. But and if you don't know, I didn't know this until today, that he's Mac's best son. So
oh, I didn't know that.
yeah. So there you go. Yeah, absolutely. So that being said, anyone wants to come help volunteer at that pavilion this weekend, we're going to be over there working, I think. So anyway, any other questions for Councilmember Dothett? All right, we're going to move on then to item J2, Borough Planning. Commissioner Fikes.
Alrighty, last time we spoke was on May 8th, and we had a quorum. We had 3 plats in front of us. All 3 were heard and all 3 were passed. And let's see. And we moved on to a conditional use permit. And this was to construct a bridge on the KPB right-of-way within the 50-foot Habitat Protection District of an unnamed creek. This was out in the Russian community towards Homer. I couldn't even begin to pronounce that, but that one was approved. And then we had a issue. This one was kind of unique. I don't know if any of you have been down in the Sterling area recently and saw the Zip Mart grocery store, gas station that's collapsed. So what the borough was looking at doing was drafting some kind of zoning that would address abandoned structures so that they could capture and take possession to possibly mitigate any health and safety issues, as that was rapidly deteriorating. And the current landowners were negligent in wanting to step forward and do anything. There was a lot of moving factors involved, such as contaminated soils, and it had been going on for several years, and there have been tax liens. And so the borough came up with a solution to try and get the property to change the zoning that allowed them to go in there and do some corrective action to address it. So it has fully collapsed. I'm not sure when they are going to move forward. Like I say, there was 2 issues that came before us to see about having that happen, to get it condemned, and then once it's condemned, what does that mean, kind of thing. So we did approve it. We did say we wanted to condemn it, so now they'll go ahead and address the next part of that. And then we had a ordinance authorizing the sale of substandard size lots obtained by the Kenai Borough through tax foreclosures. And that one also passed. And that was also the second part of that, being the substandard, being that it had several issues going on with it. So that was the second part of that one. And let's see. Oh, my favorite. The Nikiski APC ordinance came back before the commission again, And so it was finally decided that the east side only is going to have a voice for the APC recommendation to the assembly. It's been tossed back and forth, and they've been discussing if they were going to have a east and a west, or just a west side, and if the APC board for Nikiski is going to have a voice. And so then the Native Association that's part of the east side did not really feel that that was fair if they had only the west side. So we got to hear all about it. So it's back before the assembly now. So then on Monday we had, let's see, where are my notes? We had a building setback encroachment, and this one was going to be in the Sterling area. And this was brought back to us from an earlier meeting. They were going to postpone it so that the individual could tidy up some details on the plat and make adjustments. And so that was done, and so it was brought back, and it was ultimately approved. There was a permit for a house that was being constructed, and they wanted to have it remain in the building setback. And so on the surface, you might go, well, gosh, why would you be doing that and building it? But the lot was such that the slope, and in order to accommodate the well and the septic, had to be placed over. And so there was some further studies that the commission and the department was asking for. And so once those were completed, then it made a lot of sense, and we could make a better informed decision after that was accomplished. And then we had a conditional use permit for the railroad to put some culverts in the right-of-way within the 50-foot habitat district in the Moose Pass area. And that was a no vote. They're waiting to get some more details to finish that up before we'll go ahead and make any kind of decision on that. They withdrew it. And then we had a conditional land use for a material processing in the Seward area. And this was on Lear Road, and that one was approved. And then we had another conditional use permit for material extraction, and this one was in the Happy Valley area. And that one had 2 amendments attached to it, and that one was also approved. And the amendments attached to that were to maintain the road during use only. So it was anticipated that it was going to be used for material extraction and possibly processing, but it was only going to be a seasonal. And so they did not want the burden of maintaining this limited use road for this isolated area 12 months out of the year. So they didn't attach that. They want to make sure that was only a responsibility during the time of use and then the hours of operation. And so those 2 conditions were met. And so the applicant was happy to accommodate those. And so then that one was ultimately approved. And let's see, we had 6 plats that were reviewed. 5 of them were reviewed and approved, and 1 of them got postponed and sent back. And then we had some discussion on the APC boundaries, and ultimately it was approved to include the west side. And that was part of the director's comments, was going back over that, and then also discussing the need for condemned properties and the way that the borough can go back and try and best deal with those when they arise, hopefully before it's been 10 years down the road kind of thing. So that was all we had going on.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Item J3, Administration, Planning Director Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair Twait. First item I want to discuss, and thank you for Megan for reminding me, is just a refresher on the code for remote participation. With the amount of CUP applications this time of year and your commission traveling with the summertime and spring, nice weather. In accordance with Kenai Municipal Code 14.05.025, ECHO, a commissioner, and this is quoting it, a commissioner participating by remote electronic means shall be counted as present for purposes discussion in voting except for matters and agenda items appealable to the Board of Adjustment. Meaning if you are on participating via Zoom and the commission is voting on plats or an item that will be recommended to council, you can participate and vote as usual. But for items that are appealable, such as a CUP, encroachment, variance, you will not be called on for discussion or during the vote. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So, so because of these conditions, please make sure to notify staff in advance, myself or Megan, and our new admin, Alyssa, if you will be participating remotely, and in accordance with the same section of code, but section C, the commissioner shall notify the clerk's office in writing as soon as possible or as soon as reasonably practical, but not less than 6 hours prior to the start of the commission meeting, that the member proposes to attend by remote electronic means. So please have that courtesy for the city clerk. These requirements apply to meetings, but not necessary to work sessions, although it's still appreciated. Having advance notice of Zoom participation is helpful, because we know you intend to Zoom and you're not connected. We might just kind of stall a little bit and have an opportunity to call you and make sure that you're participating. We don't want to start a meeting without you. Any questions before I talk about other items? All right. So other items that I want to discuss with your commission, things to report. I kind of dropped the ball, but more so that I have a lot of other pressing matters. But with the new admin, I'm picking up on the review of the annual reports. So I'm hoping by the next meeting, I can give you an update of where we are in all the annual reports. And if you haven't met our new assistant, Alyssa, she's upstairs. And then jumping on to development permits and inquiries. Since this is month 8 for me, it definitely picked up quite a bit when May came around. And building permits, inquiries, just CUPs, there's a lot of interest to develop and start businesses. We have a new coffee shop next to the Little Alaskan that should be opening this month. So it's really exciting to see the desire to operate a business here. So my office is getting a lot, as well as building official. It's my understanding staff gets the opportunity, I guess at my administration, my discretion to do flex time. I do anticipate to do flex time. I probably work more than I need to, so I'm going to take that time to enjoy a little bit time with my 2.5-year-old son. So I want to let you know once my flex time schedule is in place. I will let you know. And then work session occurred last Thursday on the storefront and streetscape improvement program. Thank you for those of you who were able to attend and provide comments. At the end of it, the only real change that staff will be making to the program guide is to put a caveat that even though we require you to do the improvements within 18 months, a time extension may be requested, subject to providing good reasons, and it could be extended. Otherwise, we're going to move forward with finalizing the program guide in the next week or so, and then my goal is to have the application period ready by June 1st and the website. So that is taking a lot of my time to get that ready. And when that happens, I will let you know what it's like. And I will send you an email so you can share that with others. And then with the budget, originally in my proposed budget, I was anticipating a permitting software in the following fiscal year. But just with the amount of time that staff's doing, pushing paper and categorizing, keeping database, it's been determined that getting a permitting software sooner than later will just allow staff to focus on something like the waterfront stuff. And so that should be acquired before the budget year is over. So I'm very excited to utilize that not just for my department, but for building as well as business licenses. And after thinking a little bit more, I'm hoping to use that software for annual reporting. Because right now I have a stack of paper that I need to scan and then reorganize and then review. So I'm hoping to streamline a lot of the things we're doing. And putting on your radar, hazard mitigation plan that we have, I've been asked to amend it to include some of the spruce beetle kill that will help fire get the grants that they may need, as well as if I'm amending the hazard mitigation plan for them, I would go ahead and include the National Floodplain Insurance Program in there as well. And then it's required to be amended or adopt a new plan every 5 years. So you're going to expect to see amendment to the existing plan, and then shortly thereafter, we're going to be working to adopt a new plan for the next 5 years. So a lot of moving parts coming to your commission. And then I had a follow-up update on 1035 Angler Drive that your commission approved a CUP for lodging. One of the conditions that was added during the meeting was that they provide DEC approval of the septic, that it would support 3-bedroom. So they have done that. It can support a 3-bedroom, but the system is failing. With that being said, the applicant is doing the best they can with the resources, trying to find someone to fix that in a timely manner before the season start is challenging. So they have every intention. They've reached out to get the certification to demonstrate that the system will support a 3-bedroom. So I wanted just to let you know that, well, part of me wants to ask the question, are you okay with them continuing it with with being proactive and pursuing to address it, showing demonstration that they're progressively trying to address it? I don't think they're not trying to get away with it. They've been very upfront, and I probably talk to them on a weekly basis. So I want to let you know it's not that we're dropping the ball on it. We are working with the applicant to ensure that they update their system tank, or at least address and fix it. And some of the things that I briefly did talk to the vice chair is just code enforcement stuff. With the snow melted, definitely seeing a lot more that popped up that I didn't see before the snow occurred. I'm trying to come up with some creative ways or effective code amendments to ensure that I have the resources in code and support from legal to pursue certain actions that gets the result that we all want. So know that something is going to come across your commission of a proposed code amendment. It will probably be very generic because I don't want to draft a code amendment and not have the support. So I'm hoping to bring something before your commission to address codes to address junk vehicles or abandoned vehicles and illegal dumping. In the last week or two, I've received multiple calls. I just got a call yesterday from a neighbor across the street actively witnessing another property owner dragging stuff into the drainage ditch. So, and these are huge pieces of equipment that I don't want to let it sit there for a long time. So I'm going to address it with administration, collaboration with departments. I can't sit around and wait for a property owner to address some of the things, mostly when it comes to safety hazard issues, because it's near the right of way. So I'm getting Public Works to help me remove these illegal dumping. So anything that I can get support from you or any ideas that has worked in the past, I am a firm believer that, we either want to address it or we don't. And if we want to address it, I need the resources and support to move forward. And then we did a work session on amendments to accessory structures. I think we had a really great discussion on that one. Typically, we move forward with staff drafting a proposed amendment ordinance language and then present it to your commission. I know at times we kind of then go back to a work session to educate the public. So I want to ask if you want another work session to go over the proposed amendment, or do you want to just move forward with a public hearing so people get notified appropriately and then address it then to make changes? So I'm good moving either way. Do a work session again and then a public hearing, or we can move forward with a public hearing. I'm open to any comments.
Commissioner Glendenning.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Twait. Yeah, the timeline for the work session, would be, what, a half hour, or do you require more than that? What I'm trying to suggest is that maybe we bolt it on to a regular meeting and then have action on that work session at a following meeting. Does that meet requirements?
Thank you, Commissioner Glendenning. So the requirements of amendment doesn't require us to do work session. It's just a good practice to, give the public an opportunity, which the first work session was that. I provided you an overview of what the code is currently, and I provided you some recommendation and changes. And that's when we had a discussion. That would have been a good time with the public to show up, but we didn't. We don't typically get a lot of active participants. So that's why I'm asking your commission if you want another work session to go over a drafted proposed amendment to the accessory structure before we hold a public hearing. Or we can have the public hearing, and you're, based on what you view and discuss, you could suggest that staff hold a work session. It can work either way. Or another suggestion is staff does an open house, some opportunities outside of working hours, because not everyone is available during the evening. It's something I've done for other cities I worked for to accommodate different work hours, offer a couple open houses to discuss this proposed amendment and do notices, materials, and so forth.
So I think his question was wondering, could we have a work session right at 6:30, say prior to the meeting where we were going to have the public hearing, or would you not be able to facilitate those two in the same night?
I can facilitate it. 30 minutes. Yeah, we can do an hour before, just for you to eat. That works for me. I would say an hour. I would just hate to cut a work session short.
Yeah.
So I think a standard hour.
Yeah.
Sure.
Commissioner Glendenning.
I just spitballing as usual, but I think just to get the discussion out there and allow us to interact with each other as we do, I think that will help the public process, and so that we are communicating what our intent is, and people can, if they're interested, can follow the discussion. So I just submitted that it might be easier to do it all at once, or we could introduce, like we used to do on council, introduce in one meeting and then have the public hearing on the other. I'm agnostic to that possibility.
I'm all for what you suggested. I think initially is that if we can do that and then go take care of it that evening, I'm all on board for that. You had your light on earlier?
Yeah, I think Mr. Glendenning is just fishing for Jersey subs, but aside from that, I think the opportunity to be as transparent as possible and give enough, I guess, notice and leeway for any kind of dispute where we could say, well, you were notified, we had this available, you had these many options available for you, I think is, I'm not up for making more meetings and more work sessions, but if that's what it takes to be that transparent, I think that's probably a good idea.
Good point. Commissioner Woodard.
Just speaking for myself, the Wednesday works better for me. I have numerous other meetings on Thursday evenings, which is why I accidentally missed the last one. So.
Okay, well, I think that gives you a little direction.
Yes, that gives me direction, and I appreciate it. I would say because of the low participation or zero participation in our first work session, I'm okay with doing a work session right before it, because I would hate to have a work session, we have a very elaborate conversation, and staff drafted this ordinance and then have to do several amendments on the fly. It could be challenging for staff. So for this particular one, I don't see a lot of issues, so I'm good with a work session right before a public hearing. Thank you.
Good.
And that's all I have.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Mitchell? Commissioner Glendenning.
Yes, the storefront improvement plan, is any of that information online on the city website? Just the 10,000-foot view of it, so people can maybe anticipate what's required or get their thoughts together before the application period begins, or is the application period going to be lengthy enough that someone can adapt?
Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair Toy. Thank you, Commissioner Glendenning. It is not available online yet. I need to finalize the program guide. Once that, I'm happy to put that on the website beforehand and put everything kind of pending so people can view the final version. And then in the meantime, I'll work on the application and the website, frequently asked questions and so forth. That's a great question.
Okay, so it's a movable feast.
Yes.
Follow up?
Yeah, and then just one more thing. I would just want to state for the record that no way intimidated or, how can I say, influenced or even suppressed in my expression of thought by the presence of a councilman. And I think that any policy by the city that restricts communication between the two bodies, I think does not serve the public well. But having said that, I'll turn my microphone off. Thank you.
Not sure what you said, but it was very eloquently stated. All right, so we're going to move on then to additional public comments. Nobody here in the building, nobody online. All right. Informational items, we addressed that. We're going to move on to next meeting on June 14th, Flag Day. Don't forget that. And then commissioners' comments and questions, and I cringe to say Commissioner Glendenning.
Yeah, the meeting was the 14th, did you say?
I do believe so.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm just pleased to be back from my visit to America, and I'm glad to be home. And thank you for a good discussion tonight. And we really, I think we did some good work as far as the waterfront development. We have the brewery coming, and we have the two developments that are happening along that area. And I believe we're going to give people lots of reason to, when they come to the Y in Soldotna, to turn right and head our way. Thank you.
Good comment. Commissioner Woodard.
Yes, I'd like to recognize the passing of Commissioner Christine Hutchinson for her years of service to the city of Kenai and the state of Alaska. She was a true patriot and friend and will be greatly missed.
Very well said. Agreed. Vice Chair Halstead.
Just again, like to commend the hard work of Ms. Mitchell and staff for just keeping us on track. And you're doing a great job. I know there's a lot of work ahead of you, and I hope I'm not the squeaky wheel that you don't want to see me walking down the stairs. But there's lots to do, and you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Greenberg.
I'm sorry to hear about the passing of Christine Hutchinson.
Absolutely. Yes. Commissioner Fikes.
All good.
All right, I would agree with that. I have nothing else to add. Business complete. The meeting is adjourned.